Hello, during this New Testament Bible study, we would like to introduce the region of Samaria and begin talking about Jesus' transit through this area after he attended the Passover. During this particular Passover, John the Baptist was not yet in prison, but as we discussed at the end of the last Bible study, he may be in prison now as Jesus is transiting back to Galilee. This is the ninth part of this Bible study series, and overall it is our 34th New Testament Bible study. This is where we had left off at the end of the last Bible study. We had just read these passages. When therefore the Lord knew how the Pharisees had heard that Jesus made and baptized more disciples than John, though Jesus himself baptized not but his disciples, he left Judea and departed again into Galilee. Here it appears the triggering event for Jesus leaving Judea was knowledge by the Pharisees that Jesus and his disciples, actually the disciples were doing the baptizing, had baptized and made more disciples than John the Baptist. So Jesus left Judea, which is a region in the southern part of the land of Israel, on his way to Galilee, which is a region in the northern part of the land of Israel. As a comparison, it appears that the Gospels of Mark, and especially Matthew, seem to indicate that the triggering event for Jesus going into Galilee was John being put in prison. As a quick side note, Jesus departing into Galilee, which appears to be the same place where John the Baptist was put in prison by Herod the Tetrarch, who is the Tetrarch of Galilee. So it appears that there could be two reasons for Jesus departing toward Galilee or entering into Galilee, namely the knowledge of the Pharisees and John being cast into prison. Or it could be that there are two different triggering events for two different outcomes. One, knowledge of the Pharisees triggering Jesus leaving Judea, and then John being cast into prison being a triggering event for him entering into Galilee later on. As we were about ready to discuss, there's actually a region between Judea and Galilee called Samaria. And Jesus is about to spend some time there as he transits north to Galilee. Therefore, I said in the introduction, it could be that John the Baptist is in prison at this time, but then again, it could be that John the Baptist is put in prison towards the end of Jesus' journey through Samaria. Namely, Jesus left Judea when there was knowledge by the Pharisees, but then later left Samaria when he learned that John was cast into prison. It appears the Gospels could be harmonized either way. Moving on to John chapter 4, verse 4, and he must needs go through Samaria. As hinted at earlier, so far in all our Bible studies, we have primarily discussed two different regions in the land of Israel. The southern region being Judea, which includes Jerusalem and Bethlehem, and the northern region of Galilee, which includes Nazareth and Cana of Galilee. As mentioned here, in order for Jesus to go from Judea in the south to Galilee in the north, he had to pass through Samaria. Samaria being directly between those two regions, and if you wanted to go directly from one to the other, Samaria was in the middle. Moving on to verses 5 and 6. Then cometh he to a city of Samaria which is called Sychar, near to the parcel of ground that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Now Jacob's well was there. Jesus therefore, being wearied with his journey, sat thus on the well, and it was about the 6th hour. Now to back up for a moment and to get our bearings historically, the original patriarchs of the children of Israel, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob later had his name changed to Israel, and that's where the children of Israel get their name. Jacob had 12 sons, one of which was Joseph. In Genesis chapter 37, we're told that Israel, who is Jacob, loved Joseph above his other children and gave him a coat of many collars. And Joseph's brothers became jealous of Joseph and sold him into slavery in Egypt. And it appears that he was in Egypt until he died. Later in the book of Genesis, we're told that Joseph rose to power and became a ruler. Then, to save his family from a 7-year famine, Jacob and his other sons went to live with Joseph in Egypt. They would all live out the rest of their lives in Egypt, and their descendants also, for 430 years. Then God would rescue them from their slavery in Egypt using Moses. Eventually, they would make it back to the original land where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob dwelt, and God conquered those nations, the original people who lived in the land, because they had become sinful, and gave that land to the children of Israel. That happened in the book of Joshua. If you're familiar with the story of Joseph and his coat of many collars, you may be wondering when Jacob gave Joseph this land, when it appears that Joseph spent most of his life in Egypt. Well, it appears that Israel, who is Jacob, when he went to see Joseph in Egypt, gave Joseph a portion of land. As Jacob, or Israel, said here, which I took out of the hand of the Amorite with my sword and with my bow, the Amorite being one of the original people groups in that region. Later, when God brought the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, they took Joseph's bones with them, and when they entered into the promised land, they buried Joseph's bones in Shechem. Shechem is north of the region of Judea, in the area where Joseph's descendants received their inheritance. In the book of Joshua, this land now belonging to the nation of Israel is divided up among 12 tribes. The 12 tribes are basically the sons of Jacob, except for Levi, who became priest. To make it 12, Joseph was given 2 portions for his sons Ephraim and Manasseh, making it 12. Jacob's 4th oldest son was Judah. Judah received his inheritance in the southern part of the nation of Israel. As we discussed in our first Bible study series on the genealogy of Jesus, Jacob's son Judah is where we would eventually get King David, and a descendant of King David would be the Lord Jesus himself. Most of Joseph's descendants, the tribe of Ephraim and the half-tribe of Manasseh, received their inheritance north of the tribe of Judah. Shechem is a city in the mountains of Ephraim, which is part of the inheritance of the children of Joseph. Shechem appears to be a pretty significant place in the Bible, having been mentioned several times. Of course, the patriarch Jacob was there at one time. And even before that, the patriarch Abraham had been there, and the Lord appeared to him and said, "Unto thy seed will I give this land." And there builded he an altar unto the Lord who appeared unto him. By the way, Shechem here and Shechem here, although spelled differently in the English, according to Strong's Concordance, have the same underlying Hebrew word. Many Bible commentaries appear to indicate that Shechem is this place referred to as Sychar here in John chapter 4. Others indicate that Sychar in this passage is actually a different town from Shechem, but many resources appear to indicate that Jacob's well is at least near the city of Shechem. I bring these things up for a couple of different reasons. One, the passage itself brought reference to Jacob and Joseph, the patriarchs. Also, the second reason being that it's easy as we read further on to think of Samaria as a region outside of Israel, but actually it is a region inside the land of Israel. At least this location within the region of Samaria has historical significance with regard to the nation of Israel. There's a lot more that could be said about Samaria. Lord willing, maybe we'll talk about in a future Bible study.